And welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the world. It is I, John D, a.k.a. Too Much, and Kanika, a.k.a.
Do.
We are Doing Too Much, the podcast where we talk about situations that happen in our household that can potentially help others trying to establish a beautiful relationship. How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
You are fine. Fine as can be. How'd you sleep?
That's okay. You?
My sleep is okay. It's not like where I would want it to be, but I don't know how to get it there. So at some point I would like to get a sleep study done. My watch says that I average like 59 minutes of deep sleep for the last year.
Oh, I need to know what I average. I'm realizing that I'm older, so now I need pillows in certain areas that I didn't before. I used to be able to just put this skeleton in the bed and sleep comfortably. Now I need special pillows for my neck, under my knees.
Yeah, I think it's due to the age that there's certain things that our body requires that we're not we don't know yet. So I guess we have to get that information from a doctor. But today I wanted to talk about shacking up.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you believe that people should live with each other before they get married? And what do you believe that?
Yeah, I think they could.
Why do you think it's necessary? And so, two-part. Why do you think it's necessary, and why isn't it as popular? The choice of living together without being married.
You think it's not popular now?
I don't think people talk about it. Before it was a bad thing, but now nobody says, hey, you should do this. So to me, popularity means that people talk about it. Nobody says, you know what, I got to live with you before we get married. So it's not popular to me.
Well, I think it's just based on what people want to do as to whether or not they want to live with someone first. But I feel like that's when the representative is gone. Like all the layers are stripped away. I could definitely, like when we were talking in another episode about people living in separate houses, like married people living in separate houses or whatever. I think that when you are, when you don't live with somebody, it's like when you've had enough, you can go to your corner. You can go home and you can regroup and be able to come. I feel like the person gets that better recharged you. And also somebody that's not like, they don't see how dirty you could be. They don't see how, stuck in your ways you might be with certain tedious things around the household. What do you like when you have reached your wits end and you're looking for your quiet place? Because your quiet place is at home when you're dating somebody and you don't live with them. But when you live with them, there ain't nowhere to go, really.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where the final layer is kind of stripped away. You could be really transparent with your partner and y'all know so much about each other. But when there's nowhere else to go but in that home with that person, I feel like the last layers are kind of stripped away and you really know who you're dealing with inside and out.
So in your experience of shacking up, how long did it take before you felt like the layers were removed?
I don't think I really knew the extent of what I should have known until maybe a year later. I think that it was like a year later, I feel like, because in our situation, when we moved in together, we were both starting new jobs. We were both really occupied. I was trying to find my quiet place. You were, you had a lot of friends in the area, so you were out and about. I was pregnant, so I was like sleepy and not really irritable, I don't think. But, just trying to, there was so much we were balancing. It wasn't just like, we really love each other. We're thinking of taking this next step of, so let's do this little mid step of living together before we really commit to each other. It wasn't like that. There were so many other factors at play that I can't really speak on. Like, my situation would be different. I couldn't pay attention as much until after Day was born. So it was even more than a year. I couldn't pay attention.
So when you said the layer was unlayered, what was it? Like, how do you know? What did it look like when you started paying attention? That's probably what I need to ask. Because I don't, like, when I'm thinking about you, I can only talk about the last 4 years.
Why?
Because I guess I could go in Abu Dhabi because there was parts of you that I felt like I didn't like, but I never told you that before. So I think that before I just accepted who you were. And like when we talk, like from the past, when we conversed about that time, I just wasn't paying attention because I was too consumed with what I was doing. And I felt like the house was in order. But when things started to slow down and I was like, who is this woman that I'm married to? And that's why I said, like, I can tell you what it looked like for me. So when you say that layer was taken off, what did it look like for you? Because I really thought I was just being a great husband, great father from the limited view I was standing in.
Limited. Well, tell me more about me. Tell me more about where you were in all of that.
Then?
Yeah. How long did it take for you to feel like all the layers were stripped off with me?
I just told you, in Abu Dhabi.
We made it to Abu Dhabi in like year 9. So it took 9 years?
It was more than 9 years because I didn't look at it then. It was maybe like the last 2 years that we were there. And I was just like, who are you? I don't like this person.
So there was nothing like you feel like, well, I guess I'm thinking before Abu Dhabi, there were a lot of years, interactions, children, jobs, events.
Yeah, I thought that was just the part of marriage. I didn't think that. I thought it was great, honestly. In my head, I knew that it could improve, but I didn't know how. But yeah, I didn't have any problems with our relationship. The things that I may have didn't like, I don't even remember. That's the reason why I know that they weren't as significant, because to me, I would have addressed it. I have been petty before, but it's not to disrupt the household. It's just because that was my way. Like, that was how I dealt with things. But yeah, no, overall, I only said glowing things about you. Like, in the darkest moments, or whoever I was talking to, there were nothing, it wasn't really bad. It was just, I was really happy in my marriage, in my eyes. So I guess that's me. But with you, I really want to know, like, what made you feel like, oh, what did I marry? Because, well, not necessarily what did I marry, but what did I get myself into, as far as why didn't I recognize this in Atlanta?
No, in Atlanta, there was definitely a time where I felt like I was like, I don't know who this dude is.
That's what I'm saying. What did it look like?
So, I think it was the first time that I really felt like you didn't understand what it meant to protect me. And
yeah, I can say that. I can agree with that.
Yeah, I just didn't feel like, before, I guess I didn't think about it. And then in a moment where I felt threatened, I felt like, and this isn't even talking about the things in the background, when we talked about before about you protecting me, but just things right in my face. Like, you remember the argument we had, well, me and your sister had, And it was really just an exchange of words. And I was like, John, tell her da 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 da. He was like, I'm not getting in that.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell? So the argument was really just about, I felt the argument was about asserting that I was your wife.
Yeah, I know, but you taught me that. I didn't know.
Yeah, I know. But there were a lot of things that I learned. Like, I didn't know the extent of your relationship with your sister until she came. And then when she came, it was like, okay.
Well, that was me just learning my sister too.
Yeah, things about the family just became more evident. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know all that. But it was okay because, you learn that stuff and everybody's family is different. And but it had gotten to a point where she and I had an exchange of words, not a fight necessarily, but her response to me made it seem like she felt the hierarchy had her over me when it all came down to it when it came to you.
Oh, I agree with that after we talked. Yeah. Well, maybe even sometime well after that. But I spoke with her that night.
Yeah.
And, she was like, I know who you are, John. And I know that she's above me. And I was like, well, you need to tell her that. Because to me, like, all I said was like, why would y'all put me in that? I don't even think that was fair. But I didn't know. And plus, it was like people around. And I'm like, what is going on?
And from you, it was like, why are we talking about there's people around? For me, the fact that it came out and there was people around, I felt like it could have been deaded just then if you would have been like, oh no, absolutely not, or yes, da 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 da. But when I was like, John, I didn't understand the complexity of being able to. I didn't understand even, like, to me, I've never been in that situation. Yeah, I understand.
It was just like,
and it wasn't, just to be clear, it wasn't to make him choose between me and his sister. It wasn't that deep. It was just a comment she made where it was kind of like I was replaceable. And I didn't like that because, like, I had established a family with this man. We were married. When she came to Atlanta, like, she became my sister. So you gonna try to flex on me and tell me that, like, I'm replaceable? That shit wasn't flying with me. But it was all in the mix of, we're all hanging out. It's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody's laughing and talking. There's a little bit of drinking. And when that statement was made, it was like, I was like, John, she said da 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 da. Tell her blah blah blah. And John was like, I ain't getting in that. Oh.
Well, you see that when you tell a story, you make it seem like it was play. Like y'all. No,
it wasn't. There
was some sharp words.
Yeah. And when it got down, but see, my thing was, I was like, oh, all this could be finished if John just let her know. And when I said it to you and you brushed it off, I was like, oh. So then it made it like open, like, I'm not gonna say that, my sister ain't this over you. That's what it felt like. And so to me, I was like, damn.
It was like, honestly, it was supposed to feel that way, but that wasn't what I wanted. Like, in my head, I was just like, why am I being put in this situation? But looking back at it while you were talking, I was like, why did my sister feel like she's never seen me in a relationship before, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, why would she say something like that? And then I'm like, was it the behaviors that I had that made her feel like she could say that? Because this is me just now thinking now. Like, I really hate that you had to go through that, but I had no idea like that was even a possibility of, like, okay, it's almost like your mother's in the boat and your wife, who you gonna get rid of? Mm-hmm. And
yeah, but see, my thing is that if anything, I was constantly trying to support her in something. So it felt weird to me that she was doing that. So that was initially when I thought that I was like, oh, I know the extent to this dude now. Like, I didn't think that this was this. And then I finally learned, I think that I've come to the point where I finally learned who you were right before you came back from Abu Dhabi. Like, that whole ordeal of really ripping off all of the Band-Aids, I was like, what the fuck? Like, who am I married to for real? And that, took how many years now?
12, 11, 12.
That took like 11 or 12 years to get to. And
But I didn't even know I was going there. Like, I didn't know that that's where I should have been. So it was just like.
And it was still a matter of, for clarification, it was still a matter of protecting me.
Yes.
Like the extent of knowing how to move through the world as my husband in the ways of, interacting with people. I remember when we were younger, John was such a flirt, even up until life as is now. John is a flirt.
No, I'm not.
You're
what
not
do you mean
a
life
flirt.
is now. No, I can tell you when I stopped.
I'm gonna tell you what kind of flirt you are now. John is the kind of flirt now where it's not. It won't cause harm. It's kind of like he makes older women, more so than younger women now. It's like older women, you make them feel they stand up a little straighter. Oh, young lady, you look da-da-da-da. It's a whole different feel than in the beginning. In the beginning, it was just raw and uncut, like flirting when I first met him. And it was everybody could get it. And then as we got married, it toned down, but you were still an absolute flirt.
Oh, I know. I can tell you when it stopped.
When did it stop?
It stopped in Abu Dhabi. You and the kids had left. And it was this young lady, she and I were talking, and she was like, I really like your podcast. This is when I was with Diverse Clarity, of course. Mm-hmm. And I brought up, because she sent me a message, because I was like, hey, beautiful, I hope your day is great, right? Mm-hmm. And she sent me a message. This is the first time I've ever gotten a message like this. It was just like, I don't feel comfortable with you calling me beautiful. I'm interested in your friend, and I think you should refrain from doing that. And that was the first time that I got checked about using with adjectives to describe somebody. So when I saw her again, we had a sit down. And I was like, you made me feel really kind of a certain way. She was like, typically when I talk to people and they call me that, the intent is different. And I just wanted to put that there.
Well, even to be honest, if I would have known that that's how you address people, I would have been uncomfortable with that too. Like, no, just call
that's
them
what I'm
their
saying.
name.
That's what I'm saying. So it was more so, that's what I did. So fast forwarded to when I came back and I went to Tampa for the 99 takeover. There was a young lady. Now, mind you, in my head, I'm just in a different place. There was a young lady that apparently was interested in me. Well, no, there's two situations. Let me go back. So I'm there the whole day, and this girl, we're just chilling. It was like the bros, and then there was a few women, and then we're talking, and the lady said, I never thought you were married. You don't seem like the married type. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, you didn't give off that vibe. That's when I came home and I told you. I was like, what vibe am I giving off? But go on to the next night. We go out to this club, and it's this young lady that's dancing. Everybody's interested in her because her body is voluptuous. And I'm sitting down, and she's dancing and bumping into me, and I'm just like smiling or whatnot. And she whispers in my ear and says, you don't want to dance? I was like, I'm sorry, I'm married. And she said, why don't you have your ring on? You leading me on? I was like, oh my gosh. And then after that, I realized that I need to be better with my presentation so that people don't think they got a chance. Because in my head, I was really, I felt like I was on the road of, there's no misunderstandings anymore. I don't want you to think that there's an opportunity. And I was still giving that energy, and I was like, I got to do better. But when I look back at it, it was like, that's who I was at the time. Like, I didn't think it was harming anyone. But yeah, so now I don't I call older women young lady. I call everybody young lady, but I don't think that's a form of flirting. To me, I don't think it's a form of flirting. I don't describe anybody. I just say, hey, you look nice today. I don't say any over glamorize anybody's appearance or whatever. It's just a simple compliment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that the fact that even on social media we weren't friends, and when we were, even when we went out, a lot of the times when there were a lot of people, I was sitting with the wives. So I didn't know what your interaction was with people or your conversation or how you address them. But definitely, if I would see back and forth like that, I would have definitely felt like that was some trash and that wasn't protecting me either.
But see, that's what I'm saying. But if you've read the conversation, you'll see that it had nothing to do with that. It was just like, oh, that was odd. And then you were like, oh.
No, but I'm saying like period out the gate though. Like, just to be clear, it wouldn't matter if the conversation was about hot dogs and chips for the rest of the conversation. It's just like, what is it that in this conversation is hot dogs and chips, but what kind of conversations have been had? What kind of closeness is going on here? Like, what type of flirtation? Okay, you're saying this on a text or whatever, but when you're in person, like all of those things, it's a representation of, to me, it's a representation of your respect for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, but you can't, like, to me, when you were saying that when we were in Atlanta, you was like, you're not protecting. You didn't explain that. Nobody's ever told me. Like, so it was like almost like, I don't know what you're talking about. And to me, I felt like me protecting you was making sure that your life was just getting like it was great, like happy.
I get that. And so I will open it up and say that, like I was saying, in the last couple of years, that it's really like the last year and a half, no, almost 2 years. That is when that last Band-Aid got ripped off. And I was like, oh, so the definitions and the boundaries that you created, far looser than my own. But I didn't realize how far off our view of things were. I didn't realize that we were literally speaking two different languages when we talked about a lot of things. Like when I would say, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, and you'd be like, yeah, I did this. That ain't nothing. That's nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. And those weren't, like, I guess it's even crazy because we're starting to talk about, is there any value to shacking up? But we got together before we got married. We lived together, and then we got married. And even like over a decade into a marriage, 2 decades into knowing one another, we're still like decoding stuff.
Correct.
But I think a lot of it is, we started out so separate. I guess that's the other thing about being friends versus starting out in different ways. And that's another episode we were talking about, starting out as friends and having that different level of transparency. When we started out, it was like we were talking and it was moving toward, it wasn't like talking like we were friends and we hung out, like me and Craig. It had a different idea of what we would be when we're having these conversations. And so it put me in a box where there were some things about you and your interactions with people I would have never known.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe it was more, I don't know. Yeah. So it's not just about shacking up. In the beginning, I said, I guess it depends on people and what they want. But I don't think, now I want to go back and say, I don't think that shacking up makes any difference in whether or not somebody really knows or there's more transparency. I don't think so.
I don't think, well, the question was, do you recommend shacking up before getting married?
My whole point of shacking up was so that you could have a better idea of who you're going to be with. But I don't think that matters now in having this conversation.
Oh, it does. I just think that the type of questions or the interaction we've had didn't reveal those other things. But I still feel like you learned a lot by us living together before we got married. It wasn't just one thing. Like you make it seem like if I knew this, there's no way.
But the important stuff that I think, I don't necessarily know if you need to live together in order to see it. The important stuff like you could discover in questioning.
Bills, you like, everybody's not good with bills.
I mean, but you could talk about that.
You can,
like,
but until that bill's not paid and you're responsible for it, you don't know that the person is cool with red, like the last.
I mean, but then that's the other thing. Like, okay, so before you get together and you're like, okay, we need to talk about our financial habits.
What does that look like?
Yeah. So then you be like, are we going to share credit scores? Are we going to share credit reports? Let's look at credit reports.
Your credit wasn't good then, right?
My credit was good, but I paid my bills, but my credit cards were definitely at the tippy top all the time.
No, I'm referring to your credit score, because to me, I didn't care about your credit score because I knew mine was good.
My credit score, it wasn't superb because I was irresponsible with paying. Until I got on auto pay, I would forget. Then they would tell me I'm 60 days behind, and so. Well,
see, that's what I'm saying. So even you got to be more purposeful, and when you're asking, because, like I said, as a man.
But that's what I'm saying. If you look at a credit report, that tells you their history anyway. Oh, it looks like you have a pattern with being late with this.
No, I get it, but I'm saying I didn't care about yours because I felt like I was going to protect you in that way. You didn't have anything to worry about. That's what I'm saying.
But regardless of that, like, we have to look at, so you get this much money a month. How much money do you have left over? Do you really live check to check? And what if something happens? Is it all on me to be able to have this money sitting, set off to the side in order to pay things? And so that's important. I think it's important to know that. I think it's important to know, you don't have to know how much I have in savings, but what the ballpark is. Like, I don't think that you have to know exactly how many accounts I have, but.
Why not?
Because, I may have accounts set aside for certain things that aren't to be counted, not to be like, if we're in a bind and I'm like, you got that one account and that one account, can we pull money from that? But what if there is something that is set aside specifically for?
Then I would tell you. Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that you have to know how many accounts I have, but I think that it's important to know that I have. Okay, so do you have $5,000 to $10,000 saved? Do you have $10,000 to $15,000? Like, you don't have to know my exact number. You don't have to know what I'm doing with it. None of that. But do you have something that if we were in a bind, if you were in a bind?
So you do believe that married people should have accounts that their partners don't necessarily know about?
I don't think you have to know the specifics about it, but I do think that they should know.
May I ask why?
Number one, I think you should know about it because if anything happens to me, you should be able to access it. Mm-hmm. But number two, depending on who you're in a marriage with, sometimes you can be in a marriage with somebody who money runs through their fingers like water. And if they know that there's a certain amount of money sitting in the back somewhere, they think that it's okay because that money is there. No, that money is set aside for something else. What if it's set aside for retirement, or I'm planning on putting, I think a down payment on a house or whatever. Not everybody, if you chose to be in a relationship with someone who is less financially responsible than you, some people count your money more than you count your money. And sometimes they count your money as a safeguard for them, and they're more reckless. And so I would say that I do agree that I don't necessarily agree in secret accounts. Like, we've always had a joint account to pay our bills, and we have our own. So we knew that there was money that was going somewhere for ourselves, and it was managed by us, and whatever is whatever, as long as the house was taken care of. But I think you should know in case of emergencies, but I don't think that people need to know the specifics because it's up for me to determine that. Like, when I spend stuff, I should be able to spend it how I want. Wait a minute, you had $22,000 in there and now you have 11. Like, what happened? Like, what do you? Well, it might be that I'm investing in something. Or
I guess I'm missing something because where we are in a marriage now is totally different from where we were years ago in the beginning, and you were not about that. So now you're about that? Because I remember giving somebody $2,000.
Oh, I was mad, but this
is what I'm saying. You just said if I have 22,000 and it goes down to 11,000, you shouldn't be counting it. I'm doing something. Like I was doing something, but you made it seem like we were supposed to negotiate if this is okay. But now you can do it.
No, because you were given that. Are we gonna put this in here?
Why not?
Okay, you were giving that out of our income tax, like that.
Well,
I didn't understand why. I feel like if there is money coming into the house, and at the time I wasn't even working.
Correct.
So
it did not cripple us.
I was in school. No, but listen, that's a large amount of money where we're all depending on you. And that money wasn't just like that money you had was to invest in that business, not to give to somebody so that they could get toothpaste and food.
Listen, regardless of what you think that I shouldn't have done, my whole point was comparing to you're saying that then that wasn't good, but you can do something with 11,000 without me knowing because that's what you do with your money. That's what I'm trying to understand. Like it's now I feel like we should be a lot more transparent as far as what we're doing with money.
Well, we do discuss what we do with our money. But what I'm saying to you is, say you're in a relationship where your household is completely taken care of. You are stable in your savings. I'm stable in my savings. You and I would have a conversation about what I'm doing. But like to be able to count every bit of my money doesn't like why? In our case at that time, I was not working at all. And you were the only money that was coming into the household. And the money that you got, that 20,000 was to invest in the business. That's
not 20,000 though.
And then when we talk about
we're talking about 2,000.
Yes, and that 2,000 came out of our income tax that was supposed to maintain us four people.
But tell me this,
that person.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, did we struggle at any point? Like, did you know that anything was going on?
No.
That's my point. Like, I didn't put us in a position where we were going to, I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, but I feel like it's different when you have two people who are maintaining things and there's no chance of there being a problem and you can manage it financially. I felt like at that point, it wasn't like we had thousands in the bank that were just sitting there for us to just hand out. Things were appropriated to certain things. Like that money was set aside for the business. This money was set aside it was like, I didn't understand how we were a household on one income and you made a unilateral decision to give away thousands of dollars to someone else without any real setup as to how the money was coming back. We didn't really know this person long term. All of that stuff is significant.
See that I don't think that's fair, but that's okay. Cool. The whole point is, to me, it sounds like you're comfortable with secret finances.
No, I don't like the idea of secret finances. Let me be clear. But that's why I was saying to you, I do believe that they should have an idea of what accounts you have.
That's what I'm saying.
And
but that's
what's over there. But why? But to go back and forth as to, okay, so what's in there now? Okay, so let's talk about what we got every month. That's what I'm saying.
But I didn't even say that though. Like,
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I know, but you kind of,
for clarification.
All right, but that wasn't my intent. My whole purpose of me bringing it up was to be aware of, because if you're not aware, like, at the end of the day, we're still trying to figure out who knows.
Yeah, I do think, and that's what I'm saying. I do think that we should be aware of each other's credit history and payment history. And if you're able to save, and how much do you save? What are your habits? Like when you get your check, how do you look at it? How do you break it up? And what do you determine? And up until this point, how much do you have saved? I do believe that you should be able to give information about that. But like the day-to-day, what you decide to do with it, like what if I'm saving it so that I can invest in something in particular?
Why wouldn't I know that?
Well, okay, so just to let's scroll back when you start talking about how you were investing in what is it, gold bars or something, and you were talking about, I didn't know how much you were putting away, what you were doing with that. I didn't know that.
You didn't, but there was a point where I sent you every username and password to all of these accounts.
But I couldn't get into them things. Regardless of the fact, you said at one point you did.
That's what I'm saying. I learned to get to that point, and it sounds like you look like what we were doing before. That's what I'm telling you. Like in my head, I gave you every account that I had, including passwords, because I felt like you needed to be aware of these things.
Well,
now, whether you look at it or not,
something happened.
Whatever.
I didn't think it was for me to just be going and looking at. But go ahead.
Check this out. I could have just gave you a screenshot of what was. I gave you the username and password. So my whole point is, if you didn't have to look at it,
right? But
you could. Right. It wasn't like you couldn't. Like if I didn't want you to look at it, I wouldn't have gave you the passwords. So the whole point I'm trying to say is that if you want to look at it every day, go for it. But my point is that you know what's available and what's not. That's all I wanted to know. I mean, to give you. To me, I felt like I'm not watching you spend your money. But at the end of the day, I still don't know how you handle money because it's been a short period of time. Just like with me, like I didn't know I couldn't handle money until you guys moved back to the States, and I had to go through that like little loneliness part. Like, how did my family get back to the States? That's when I realized I was financially irresponsible. But I still don't know how responsible you are because I still see things that maybe things have not changed from what I saw before. It just looks like. It still looks the same. So me going now, I was like, well, you can see these things that I have so that you can, if you feel like maybe I'm not being responsible, at least you can watch and say, okay, I'm seeing what he's doing.
I understand.
No doubt. But the whole point was all about shacking up, how much information you can get from.
But let me just clarify that I completely agree with you that people should be able to know. I just don't.
Well, I feel like if you marry, to me, it almost sounded like I can still have a back way out of this if this don't work.
Oh, no.
No, that's what it sounds like.
And then that's the other thing. It's not, I don't ever think to myself, when you have your account to yourself, I don't think it's your escape account.
No, I only think about that with women.
Why?
What do you mean why?
Why wouldn't I think that with you then?
Because I don't need money to escape. Women, you and I talked about this in the beginning of our relationship. You couldn't go anywhere because you didn't prepare for that. You know what I'm saying? You didn't have anything like, it was like sometimes I would say things to you like, what are you going to do? Leave? And he was like, I really couldn't leave. You know what I'm saying? So it's like now.
I mean, I could. If I wanted to go home to my mother.
For sure.
Yeah,
but it was a particular way that you wanted to leave if it was going to.
I had to leave with like 1 or 2 kids, depending on where we were.
You weren't going to leave with any kids.
Look, and so then that was the other thing. So then it's like, okay, so if you had to prepare to leave.
I wasn't. That was never an option. This is what I want you to know. That no parts of my life, I was like thinking that I could really leave. Because I was like, she's not letting me keep the kids.
No.
So there was no way, like in my head, I was like, I thought about us not being together. I was like, this shit's boring. Like, I don't want to do that. There's nothing, like even before I came to the conclusion that if you and I don't work out, I'm just going to be single. And it wasn't to find somebody else. It was just like, I didn't want to invest that much time into another person because I just didn't want to. I felt like I owed that to you since I couldn't give it to you. Nobody else deserved that. And if I did give it to another woman, I would always be like, dang, I fucked up this first thing. Excuse my language. I messed up this previous relationship and it's the mother of my kids. I wouldn't have been able to be happy making somebody else happy that I couldn't make happy with you when I know that was your intent to be happy. So to me,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Like I didn't ever think about leaving you. Even like, whatever the toughest parts, I was still trying to make like exceptions for us to be together. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like, I ain't trying to leave. I was serious. Like, why would I leave? Like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, I know that you was like, I was trying to leave. That wasn't an option for me. Like, I like this from the beginning. Like, I just Look, I was trying to figure it out.
Hey.
I was. And
Wait, I'm gonna tell y'all a story real quick though. When we were a month into being together, living together, and I called myself my first step of leaving John. So he didn't know we got in an argument. But in my head, we got in an argument. And I was looking around and I saw something and I said, oh, I'm out of here. If I could get out of here right now, I would. So John's gone and I'm at home and I packed all my stuff up from the closet.
She did.
Every last bit of anything out of the nightstand, out of the dresser, out of the closet. And we had a 3-bedroom at the time, and Day's nursery was next to the guest room, and then our room was on the opposite side of the house. And so I moved all my stuff into the guest closet and the guest room, and I was like, and I didn't even say anything. When he came home, it was like, everything was chill, because I was like, you know what? This is how it's about to be. Okay, cool. And he came home and everything was cool. And then he went upstairs. I don't even know if when you went in there, you even realized in the closet at first. Did you?
I don't remember, but I just remember that happened and I had to put all of it back when you were good. Oh, you can put that back.
Because I couldn't look, because we had just moved in the house. Like, I wasn't prepared to go anywhere, but this was like, John and I, we had like this 6 months, I don't even know how long it was, before you moved to Orlando. And it was just great seeing him. And then he was in Orlando. We see each other every other month. And so our time together was like always positive when I was with him. When we moved in, I was like, oh, this fool right here. It was those growing pains. But man, I knew I couldn't afford then to bust up. So I took everything out that room and I went into the guest room. Yes. But when it was all said and done and we had an understanding, he moved all my stuff back in there.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Can I tell the story why you put your?
Okay, go ahead.
So the reason why I want to tell the story, because I'm gonna just show you my mindset at that time. So she found some information where I said to somebody that I was gonna fly them and put them in a hotel, and she said, "So how the hell you telling people this?" I said, "You know how much I make. Is there any possibility of me being there?" And I was like, I'm just trying to like I knew I couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. There was no way I could.
You were saying it
without a doubt.
Yes.
So in my mind, it was like me like soften the blow to this young lady, like trying to get away. Like, they say, what is it? A time heal, not time heals wounds, but when out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
So to me, it was just like being nice as possible, knowing that this couldn't happen, But I didn't look at it the way that you looked at it. I understand that was inappropriate and leading people on. Whatever intent it was wrong. She found it. But I really, like, if y'all knew how much money I was making.
It didn't matter, because John would make stuff happen. John would make stuff happen. And so in my head, I'm like, first of all,
make what happen for the family?
Okay. Well, this is 1 month into us being here, so I don't know your family practices.
I don't know if it was a month. I think it was a little longer.
No, it was December. We moved in November.
I don't think you did that.
And I specifically said, I was like, look, y'all, when he came, when it all came down to it, I said, hey, I just moved my stuff out of the way for when she get here. And I said, and she's more than welcome to have that side of the bed. I'm out of the room completely. I said, she just got to make it past me in this door. If she can make it past me in this door,
she can stay.
She can stay. And he was like, oh my God. I was like, look, hey, she could get up in this mug. I was like, I moved everything out the way just for her. She got all the room in the world in that closet. He was like, but you know how much I make. I said, I don't care. If you gonna tell somebody, look, John was notorious for using a credit card. So if you tell somebody you gonna fly,
but those was already maxed at that point.
It didn't matter.
Like, my life was already maxed.
Your life was maxed.
It was. Look. As far as free money.
Yes.
It was maxed, and like, yeah. But yeah, I wanted to let y'all know that's the reason why she removed everything out of the house. And I'm glad she could not leave because she just said she would have left.
I would have left.
And it would have been way more difficult. It would have made it way more difficult to get her back in the house. And so things worked out the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, when I say we are on here and we are not perfect, and when I say is some of the most bumpiest, craziest things have led up to this point, definitely we were not the model couple from jump.
Oh, for sure. And I want to say this though. Majority of the bumps was because of me. Like I can look back to like 90+% of the times we got into it was because of my ways or what I thought it was supposed to be. And I didn't have any guidance as far as what it should look like. So I was just saying, this is what it's going to be. This is our household and this is what I'm not going to budge on. And I just thought that's what it was supposed to be. And, you live and you learn. I'm just glad that she had enough patience or she couldn't see as well, because if she saw, she would have probably just really left. And now we don't have to worry about that because she can't leave only through death. No, for real. Like, what am I going to do? I wouldn't do anything to harm your peace again. Like, and if I do, you need to let me know because it was an accident. I can say that honestly. But I think today's conversation. So before we get off, do you believe in shacking?
I don't think that it has the importance that I thought it did before. No. Well,
I believe in shacking, and the reason why I do, because you do learn more about a person. Regardless, you don't learn the whole thing, but you learn a lot more.
I don't think it's necessary, but I think that, I don't have nothing against it.
No doubt.
And also, if I spent $11,000 of my $22,000, I would tell you.
I know you would. I would like to believe, or I would know something changed.
Okay. Just to be clear on that, I'm not telling people to have secret accounts and spend buku money and think that is right. I'm just saying, don't count my coins exactly.
Anybody you want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
No. All
right. Well, I want to give a shout out to Ben Durden. He passed last week. He's a fraternal brother of mine from Nu Sigma 1994. He was a great guy. He was an educator, a father, a husband. I didn't have a great relationship with him, and we got along, but we didn't communicate like that. But we had a respect for each other, and I hate that I didn't get to talk to him because I just saw him recently when I went to Charlotte for our conclave, and he's like, "Hey, we need to get together. We got to talk." And we didn't get to talk because he was really busy. And then I called him the following week, and he was with his parents. And then he said, "I'll call you tomorrow." And then I was going to be with my mother the next day. And he said, "We'll get up." And he passed like that Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. And I want to give a shout out to him because tomorrow is his funeral. And I know that it's going to be a lot of people there because on my Facebook feed, there was more people that I didn't even know that knew him. And I want to be there, just out of respect, but I'm really worried about the number of people there. And I just heard about the COVID cases have popped up in the Wayne and Oakland area. And it's tough. So I just have to be as responsible as possible. But I wanted to give him a shout out because he was a great man. Really, he was an ideal. I wish that I could have established a relationship with him because I can say on the outside looking at him, he was an example of what an Omega man should be. So the shout out to him, his family.
Yeah. His family.
Anybody else he touched, his chapter, Omega, the children he touched in his educational field, everybody. Make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. Be great on purpose. Boom.